Center State CEO is Central New York's leading business leadership and economic development organization, committed to creating a region where businesses thrive and all people prosper. Welcome to a special expert mini-series for Center State CEO's podcast, Talk CNY on Click, presented by NBT Bank, where we share the latest news and information on topics ranging from community and workforce development to policy and innovation. Take a moment right now to subscribe in your listening app for new episode reminders. Today we have a national expert in digital commerce joining us. Christina Scalera is the founder of the Contract Shop, as well as a D-commerce trademark. Christina built an award-winning, record-breaking 7-figure Shopify empire with the Contract Shop by turning her legal services into digitally downloadable contract templates. Based out of the northwest corner of the States, she now teaches service-based business owners of all types, think photographers, calligraphers, wedding planners, and more, to turn their services into best-selling, passive, digital download products sold through an online storefront. Christina has been featured as an industry expert in entrepreneur, gold digger, being a boss, don't keep your day job, and creative live. I'm your host, Kate Hammer, business coach and member at Center State CEO. Christina Scalera, so wonderful to have you. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Kate.
Awesome. So you're here to talk about digital commerce, which actually D-commerce is a term that you invented and trademarked, right?
It is.
Yes. So can you tell us a little bit about what it is? What is digital commerce?
Yeah, so you've probably come across this in the form of PDFs, guides, digital planners, any kind of digital product that's delivered via some kind of digital delivery method, whether that's through an email or after you make a purchase, it's a download of some sort, a zip file, a PDF, a Word document. These are all products just like you would go through a Shopify site and buy. And then on the other end of it, instead of getting something shipped to you, it's delivered immediately digitally. And that's your product to use however you'd like on your iPad, on your computer, on your phone. So there's this whole emerging industry of products that are available now that are all digital products to help, usually in a business to business type of context, to help people further along in their own business journeys.
Yes, I love that. And it's interesting, you say emerging, and yet you were there at the very beginning several years ago, one of the people who really made this come front and center and become such a great pivot for so many service-based businesses. Why is digital commerce important to add into the way a service-based business does business?
Yeah, I think we saw the importance of this with the pandemic. And when that started, a lot of people had panic about what they were going to do for a living when they couldn't have people come in to see them in person, when they couldn't visit with their clients or host events or open a restaurant or whatever it was that they needed to do that relied on some sort of in person physical component. So, there's a famous saying that millionaires have at least 7 streams of income. And I think for any service-based business to diversify into some sort of digital income, especially with digital products, it's a really smart move, even though it's not always the easiest move. But if you are able to do that and prioritize that on your plate as far as what you offer through your business, then it can really help you in any kind of crisis that comes up, which we know that's going to happen at some point. Like, we know there's going to be some kind of recession, whether it's now or in 10 years or whatever. We know there's probably going to be something else, hopefully not as bad as COVID or anything like that, but we know stuff like that is on the horizon. And so if you can just diversify what you have to offer so that when something happens that forces people back online and out of your restaurant or out of your service-based in-person place of business, then you're better protected against those events. And you're even really well suited to scale up the digital side of things if that were to ever happen again.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. I think people have an awareness that this exists, but as a business owner, trying to figure out how to get a footing there and how to get started and what sort of digital products will make sense for your business can be really difficult and can be why some people don't get started as soon as maybe they should. So what are your recommendations for first steps and finding a way forward?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So getting started is definitely the hardest part. It's kind of like losing weight where it feels really it feels like a lot of work at the beginning and you're not really seeing much payoff, right? But if you
Mhm.
were to keep going to the gym every single day for a year, you're going to start to see those results 3, 6, 10 months in. With digital products, it takes a little bit of time to find what that product is going to be for you. But the easiest way to do that, I mean, I have a lot of YouTube videos and things like that. So if you want like inspiration or brainstorming, you can definitely check those out. However, what I will say in, just like the smallest piece of advice I can give on this that's really powerful is you need to look at what kind of result people are coming to you for and be able to deliver some sort of that result. It could be a small portion of that result, it could be the whole thing, but it has to be delivered digitally. So, for example, if you're a therapist, maybe you have some kind of practice area that you are better known for than other therapists in your area. Like if you're known for childhood trauma or kids going through divorce or something, and
Mhm.
you want to have some sort of online digital product offering, you could create some kind of workbook or guide or planner that parents can print out and give to their children to help them through these difficult periods where they maybe are going through a divorce with that parent, or they just are going through some kind of transition that's really traumatic for kids. So having that guide or that digital product that's available to just kind of help them work through some of those feelings when, as a therapist, you can't be there for that child 24/7. Like that's a good example of like turning your service into a product. Same thing with like restaurants. If you wanted to serve your customers 24/7, maybe there's some sort of app or guide or meal planning or something like that. Even taking the idea of a cookbook that, some restaurants have gotten really famous through their cookbooks and things like that. And the reasons because it can spread further than the delivery of that food, right? Like if you're in Toronto, you have to be in Toronto to eat at that restaurant. But if I'm in Washington State, if I'm in Washington State and I buy a cookbook from that restaurant, I can have a little piece of it at home. So taking that idea and turning it into a digital product instead of a physical cookbook, and giving people, emailing them one meal idea every single day so that they know what they're going to eat for dinner that night. These are all examples of things that people are coming to businesses for that result, right? And turning that into some sort of digital offering that someone is paying you money for, hopefully on a subscription basis, if not on like maybe a higher cost one time offer fee basis.
Yeah. Well, yes, hopefully on a subscription basis. So that's really interesting. I mean, obviously there are a lot of ways that it can be approached, and I know, seeing what you sold, there are one-time products, there you have courses. I mean, there are just so many offerings there that are possible, but keeping that in mind that, anything that's going to be renewable, hey, that's where it's some brainstorming, right? So you have this incredible story of doing exactly this, taking a service-based business, or what would have been one traditionally. You are an attorney, you have that education and background, and turning that into a shop with digital products, and then becoming extremely successful with that and deciding that, man, everyone seems to want to know how to do this too. I'm going to teach it. And you've helped so many business owners become incredibly successful in their own right doing so. So, can you just share a little bit about that story and what that has been like for you? And then how it's kind of turned around to this point where you're sharing that information?
Yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
in 2015, I was really trying to make ends meet and I was trying to do anything online because I wanted to work remotely so that I could travel and see the world and, do the whole millennial thing. And what I ended up doing was I was trying to be a private yoga teacher at the time. And so I was blogging and learning a lot about graphic design and Pinterest and social media and things like that, trying to make this thing work because I had realized I'd gotten my dream job right out of law school and it was hell. So I had to pivot because what I thought was going to be amazing and that I could work at for the next 50 years of my life or whatever was not the case at all. And so I pivoted, did this quarter life crisis thing into yoga. Everybody thought it was crazy because they were like, "Why are you doing this? You're throwing your degree away, whatever." But I ended
Hmm.
up coming full circle and using everything I learned during that year to where I was learning about blogging and being online and creating, a logo for a business and why a website that's functional matters and things like that. So I learned all of that in this process, and in the meantime, because, private yoga, shocking, it didn't pay the bills for me. I was still working on some legal projects for a couple of clients here and there. People would find out I'm a lawyer and they'd be like, "Hey, can I hire you for this?" I'd be like, "Sure." you know, "Great.
Hmm.
I can pay rent this month. Wonderful." So I was doing a couple projects like that. And I just had a friend who approached me and she was like, "Hey, I know that you're working off of like these templates that you're doing, basically like service agreements. Can I just buy the template from you? Like, I don't have the cash on hand to have it all customized and, go through revisions and stuff with you as a lawyer, but like, can I just buy the template part?" And I was like, "That sounds like a great idea." And she was like, "This could be a good business for you because there's a lot of people," she was a photographer, she's like, "There's a lot of photographers that are like me that need these strong legal documents, but we don't necessarily have the money to invest, or, we don't want to allocate that money to a $5,000 plus lawyer bill." I was like,
Yeah.
"That's interesting." So I kept getting found out as a lawyer at all these like different networking events and stuff that I would go to, trying to
Yeah.
make this yoga business work still. And I just ended up talking about very basic legal things, how to have good relationships with clients, what to do if there's a client problem, how to get an LLC, what a business checking account is, just kind of the basics that you need to know for business. And I
Hmm.
realized this is an area where people really need a lot of help because there's a lot of very high level, even for myself going through law school.
Yeah.
I learned all the high level like M&A type stuff, but no one ever talked to me about what an LLC is beyond what those letters stand for. So I started
Mm.
creating programs and products that would teach people about these things, and also templates that they could just fill out and have the end desired result, like I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So they could just download, print that, and move on.
Awesome. And there was this demand, you were alerted to it, and then the contract shop was born.
It was, yeah. So that was in 2015.
Wow. So it's been a minute, almost a decade now.
What? No, not quite. Oh, I guess like 2000,
Yeah.
about 7 years.
Isn't that funny? Time flies.
Yeah.
Okay. So as this, as people learned about this business, obviously they were interested in it for the product because they needed those products. They needed access to essentially what an attorney's offering is minus that high cost. But also, people became interested in understanding how it was that you created such a thing. So, tell us a little bit about how successful it has become and how you have then been able to pivot and also be teaching.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of meeting my goals, it far exceeded those because again, remember, I wanted to work remotely and be able to support that lifestyle. And, we're not talking about private jets and flying first class everywhere. Like I was living pretty frugally and renting for the most part. And then I ended up meeting my husband and we bought a house last year up in Washington State. So, that has like morphed and changed over time. But all along the way, I have been able to work from wherever I can, wherever I want with internet, which was always the goal. So, in terms of like meeting the goals that I had when I started
Mhm.
my business, that's definitely was exceeded. And then financially, the cool thing was after I met the working remote goals, my next goal obviously was to start to increase those top line revenues and make everything more profitable from there.
Mhm.
And I was able to do that as well. So that was where I really was able to shift and move. And then the third thing I was able to do as a result of increased top line is hire more. So I was
Mhm.
able to hire people to support the mission of the business and just get in there and do the work that I had been doing. And now that, that business, it was able to run completely without me. And that was the really cool thing because you have something that is traditionally a highly technical area, legal stuff, and it's running without me, other than like maybe me overseeing one or two maybe tiny things, editing a couple things here and there every year. It was completely outsourced. And so that actually led to the opportunity to sell it, which I took advantage of in the past few months because I didn't really know what this process would look like. But I should also back up and just remind everyone listening that in 2020, I started a second business. And again, it's because I was able to work remotely. I had the revenue to support the first business and keep it profitable. And then I also had the ability to make sure everything was outsourced. So that business was really running all by itself.
Hmm.
And by 2020, that was when I started to look at different opportunities to create another business, because anybody who's an entrepreneur out there knows you get itchy and you want to do something else. So I had to fight that urge for a really long time. And then it just seemed like the right time to jump in and start the second business. So that's what I did. I had no idea how it would go. And it's actually gone really, really well, to the point that 2 years after I started it, that's when I said, I really have to pick between these two businesses, because even though the contract shop is running completely on its own, I need just more mental headspace to be able to be creative and, work on the second business, which now has a really, it's getting to be a bigger and bigger YouTube channel, and just lots of things about it that require a lot of creative
Hmm.
energy. And I
Yeah,
felt like I was always getting sucked back into the contract shop just for like little tiny things like pay this contractor, renew this email subscription. And it was just like
totally.
distracting me. It's hard to describe.
Well, I think
Like
it's
it
actually
sounds like
really
these are
important that
such,
you point it out because the create
yeah.
that issue of thinking, your time spent in thought process about a thing actually matters quite a lot. So it's not just those work hours that where you're actually doing some specific work activity, but when you're showering and thinking about your business or whatever.
Yeah,
So I think it's
exactly.
important to
So I
know. Yeah.
just kept getting pulled. I like use the analogy of like it was being on the highway, and every 3 exits I had to stop and pee. Like it was just like,
Yep.
I'm going, 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 and then there's just like an email that comes in that I need to take care of. So I wanted to eliminate that kind of, I'm all about like minimalism and, simplicity. And so I just wanted to make sure that I was that I was doing that for myself, and that
Yeah.
was what felt good to me. So I had no idea what would happen, and I worked with a brokerage. We put it up for sale, and I said, "Okay, if I can get this price," and I had a price in mind, "then I'll be really happy with that, and that will allow me some, obviously a cash cushion to continue to work on my second business and all that." So
Yeah.
anyway, I didn't know what would happen, and within 20 days, I had 3 really solid offers and decided to take one. And so that business closed on December 1st, and, we've been in the migration process since then. So I've been supporting the new owner with all of the things that they need in order to take that business over.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you, yeah.
What a story. I love that. I love it. And how everything's sort of come around full. And then, as you mentioned, this business that you started up in 2020 that has helped so many people do this too, whether they end up keeping their business forever or selling it, that it's just made a huge impact on the way that they do business. So, can you just give a couple of examples on the types of service based businesses that you have helped to create digital products?
Oh my gosh. I mean, literally every industry. The only one that ever had me stumped was some guy approached me and he's like, "I'm a medieval history document restorer," something
Oh,
like that. And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know that I can help you." But everybody else, I think I've had a little taste of everything from, stylists, like hairstylists, to designers of all kinds, interior, graphic, web designers, people that have restaurants, people that have hiking services, like they take you or your dogs out on hikes, therapists, lots of different therapists,
wait,
coaches,
slow down.
obviously.
Dog hiking?
Yeah, like if you live in an area and you can't, you don't want to drop your dog off at doggy daycare, they come and like hike with your dog. Like they pick
This
your dog up and they take it hiking.
I'm like jaw to floor. This is amazing. I wanna be one of those dogs that gets picked up for a hike. That
I
sounds so
yeah,
cool.
and they make a pretty decent living with their service too. I mean, it's like $50 a day to take your dog for a hike, but, the dog comes back tired and the person's happy, so it's a win-win for everybody.
Seriously, hey, Central New York, if someone isn't already doing this, if you're listening to this episode and you're like, "Man, I have that entrepreneurial bug, but I don't have my big idea yet." Someone
Yeah,
needs to be offering this out here. We have some great
right?
trails. Okay. So point being, if you have a service-based business, there's a way. And if you're not seeing it, there are people, there's a person who can coach you and help you figure it out. And Christina, you offer that, right? So you have some course offerings or membership offerings. Tell me a little bit about like how could somebody get helped by you to develop
Yeah.
digital commerce?
Yeah, if someone wanted to start with digital products, I have a completely free guide. It's the ultimate guide to creating digital download products, and you can get
Mhm.
that for free at my website at christinascalera.com. And then if you want to take it to the next step and actually have a whole shop that supports all your digital download products that you're creating so that you have a place to sell them, I have the Launch Your Shop Academy. So that is a paid offer.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna link up to all of this good stuff, your YouTube channel, this freebie, which you must get if you're listening. Oh my goodness, get it. I've actually done quite a bit of training myself and coaching with Christina. She's amazing, just bursting with ideas, so delightful to work
Thanks.
with. I'm sure once you see this guide, you're gonna be like, "Oh man, I have to." And this is not just some weird salesy thing. Like Christina's awesome. I've worked with her myself, and so I just so strongly recommend her. I remember some of the first few questions I asked you in a group coaching context. I was just absolutely blown away by how you're just so creative and quick on your feet, and it's just so exciting also to just be in that environment of a group, to just hear what other people are doing and inspire each other. And sometimes we just need that little change up in our environment to, kind of dust off the shelves. We get in
Yeah.
our routines and we get used to doing what we're doing, but it's a great way to kind of refresh and reset. And also, hey, it's 2023, start of the year. Like, hey, maybe this is the year that digital commerce becomes part of your offering. So, Christina, thank you so much for coming on and describing what digital commerce is and why it should be important to every service-based business owner and how they can actually get started if they would
Yeah,
like
of
to.
course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Center State CEO's podcast, Talk CNY, is presented by NBT Bank and is available on centerstateceo.force.com/click and all major podcast platforms. After each episode, you can join us on Click, where we'll continue to chat about this topic and provide additional resources and links. In Click, you can also listen or watch every episode in this series of Talk CNY. Click is Center State CEO's interactive digital chamber platform where our members connect, learn, and receive support from our staff. For new episode reminders, be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast listening app. If you're enjoying Talk CNY, consider leaving a quick review or a 5-star rating.